Yes, Amanda and Kelsey, this entire incident did happen middle of the day yesterday near the National Mall, as that 75-year-old man died following what began as a simple traffic stop.
It has definitely started to get warm out here. It is indeed a Triple H day, hazy, hot, and humid, and that's why the city is playing no games and actually going to this heat health emergency. Well, Jennifer and Amanda, it was a nightmarish scene in Southwest Philadelphia last night as that gunman who was wearing a bulletproof vest opened fire with an AR-15 style rifle right on South 56th Street. It is another Monday morning out here on State and Cotman, and unlike a week ago, we've seen a lot of improvement on this reconstruction of I-95. In fact, if we take a look over my shoulder right now, you can actually hear the hydraulic drills hitting what were the northbound. And this is a block that is unfortunately not unfamiliar with tragedy. It was just 3 years ago that the killing of Walter Wallace Jr. occurred on this same block here in 2020. But currently, Philadelphia police are investigating another tragedy as two people were found dead, again, believed to be the victims. They're both a husband and wife. We'll have more on this story throughout the morning and keep you updated on, again, this tragic scene that has happened here in Cobbs Creek.
The 76ers are back in action tonight. They'll host the Miami Heat as the Sixers try to rebound from that heartbreaking loss on Saturday night to the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum hit this three-pointer with 1.7 seconds left in the ballgame to give Boston a 110-107 win over the Sixers. Tip-off tonight with the Sixers and Heat in South Philly is at 7 o'clock.
Yes, Kelsey and Alex, and just over my shoulder to my left is the Trinity Reformed Christian Church. And this is the focal point of a cold case that goes back to the summer of 1975. Now take a look at this little girl. Her name is Gretchen Harrington. She was 8 years old when she was abducted from Marple Township on August 15, 1975, and she was later killed. Now, her body was discovered 2 months later at the Ridley Creek State Park, and her case had remained unresolved for nearly 48 years until this man, 83-year-old David Zandra, apparently confessed last week to the Pennsylvania State Police that he is the one responsible for her death. Now, Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer outlined the confession yesterday, saying Zandstra beat the little girl to death after abducting her.
This man is evil. He killed this poor 8-year-old girl he knew and who trusted him, and then he acted as if he was their family friend.
Harrington's father was a pastor at the Broomall Reformed Presbyterian Church. She was on her way to Bible camp here at Trinity when she was abducted by Zandstra, who was a pastor at the church at the time. The case stood cold for decades until a woman who says she was a victim of sexual abuse at the hands of Zandstra came forward back in January. Now, the criminal complaint outlines the disturbing details, including journal entries that detail the abuse and say another girl was nearly kidnapped a few days before Harrington disappeared. Now, Zandstra was taken into custody on July 17th in Cobb County, Georgia, where he has lived for years. And in a statement, Harrington's family said, in part, quote, "It's difficult to express emotions as we take one step closer to justice." And, quote, "The abduction and murder of Gretchen has forever altered our family, and we miss her every single day." They also expressed gratitude for law enforcement. Now, as for Zandstra, he's waiving extradition from Georgia back here to Pennsylvania, and it'll be a few weeks before he steps in front of a judge here in Delaware County. Yes, Kelsey and Amanda, we're still kind of figuring out exactly what happened here last night, and as I actually will show you, that building right there is the Bluebell Inn at Cobbs Creek. It opened in 1766, but unfortunately, it was on the wrong end of this crash last night, and we have obtained surveillance footage of this crash. Now, the footage comes from the Island Supermarket, which is on the corner of Island and Woodland across the street from the Bluebell Inn, and as you can see, the trolley jumps the tracks and crashes first headlong right into a white SUV, and then eventually through that and hitting the Bluebell Inn, leaving the building mangled. Now, the two people who were in the SUV were injured, but their conditions are unknown at this time. SEPTA says there were no passengers on the trolley when the crash occurred, but a mechanic did suffer what they're calling non-life-threatening injuries. So the SEPTA police are investigating this incident, which is the latest crash of a SEPTA vehicle. It's the 5th crash involving a SEPTA vehicle in less than 7 days in the Philadelphia area, and that includes Tuesday night's incident where a bus crashed into a building in Center City. So according to SEPTA, there have only been 8 crashes of SEPTA vehicles this entire year, and there were 33 from 2020 to 2022. So we're here again in Southwest Philadelphia, where you see the historic Bluebell Inn. Again, it opened in 1766, but last night it unfortunately was hit by that trolley that jumped the tracks that also hit an SUV. And as we saw from that surveillance footage, this whole thing could have actually been a whole lot worse.
Hey, Amanda and Kelsey, and an old city, Philadelphia, indeed has a number of connections, of course, to history. And that includes the bar that's over my shoulder behind me. That tavern opened in 1759, and it has a very interesting name: A Man Full of Trouble. Now, the name actually comes from a biblical verse in the book of Job that says, "Man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble." And it's managed to do what few places have done here in the city, and that's survive largely intact as the city has evolved over the last 250 years. And now a real estate developer named Dan Wheeler, who used to work for Governor Rendell's administration, is looking to restore it. And he bought this building from the University of Pennsylvania 2 years ago, and he explained how he managed to get a hold of a 260-year-old tavern.
That's right. I'm a real estate investor. It's what I do primarily, and this just showed up on the MLS one day as a condo conversion project. And I said, "Are you kidding? Is this something I could own?" And I say I bought it from the University of Pennsylvania. I made an offer the next day, and they accepted it because I guess they didn't want the publicity either. I'm not sure why, but that's how it came about.
Now, as you see there's the bar, albeit a bus is pulled up in front of it, but Wheeler is putting his money where his mouth is when it comes to this restoration project of this particular tavern. He paid $875,000 for this building and expects to spend close to $1 million to fully restore it. As well, he also hopes to have this thing back in business and once again causing trouble by next spring. In Old City, I'm J. Scott Smith for PHL 17.